Oh, hit the wrong buttons. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's do this. Let's light some fires, as Chris said. No, we don't
Fired
have
up.
fires. We don't have fires to light.
Proceed with the countdown.
10,
9,
8,
7,
6,
5,
4,
3, 2.
Time's up.
Too tight, Marshal?
Nope.
Any last words?
Nope.
What do you want on your tombstone?
Pepperoni and cheese.
Time for Tombstone Pizza, made with the good stuff, real pepperoni, real cheese, so it's always real good. What do you want on your tombstone?
Just a little taste.
Nope.
It's that look. It's that look right there. That look like test me, mother. Yeah.
And then there's a little old lady.
Knives for sale.
Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to Talk Hard. Let's do this. We're going to talk some movies, have some fun, hang out for a little bit. And with me, as always, one of our co-hosts here, Stone Cold Loki. How are you doing, brother? What's going on?
I'm doing great, brother. I love this movie. I absolutely freaking love this movie. Best to me, it's the best Western of all time.
Yep.
Hopefully, I will be able to explain why while we're talking about it. But I was so excited to get to watch this again. Probably like 3 or 4 times a year. I sit down and watch this movie. Love this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I am definitely never trying to take its greatness away when I make the case for 3 great Westerns that are not alike in any way. It's hard to even kind of compare them. And that would be Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Tombstone, and Unforgiven. I think they're just sort of like the trifecta of perfection. I don't even know how to rank them. I don't know. I've watched I watch them all, definitely like yourself, several times a year. I need to do it. I'm ready for a dollar trilogy, so I'll probably do reviews on that here, folks. But I haven't done Tombstone. I know it's your favorite Western. We're doing a lot of your favorites this month because we're getting prepared for Loki to enjoy a couple weeks off, getting married, and taking some time to spend with his lovely new bride. And it'll be awesome to break bread with him down here in Florida at some point. So, yeah, good stuff. Ironcaster will be back with us. He's having some technical issues and stuff going on at his place here, so we're just going to ramble a bit about the Tombstone film. But folks, listen, this is a movie that is highly quotable, lots of great scenes, great moments. We will not be able to do it justice. If you've never seen Tombstone, I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. All-star cast. The cast is beyond comprehension. Before you even get, into the weeds of Charlton Heston cameo and stuff. I mean, this is nuts. It's crazy how this cast comes together. So, what was your? Because I mean, this is kind of in your sweet spot for being able to see something like this in the theater and something like that. So, what is some of your earliest memories of watching this film?
Oh, well, we saw it in the theater a couple of times, if I remember correctly. Me and my dad went to see this. He's a huge Kurt Russell fan, and it did not disappoint whatsoever. Val Kilmer, man, wonderful. This movie almost didn't happen. If you want to get into a little bit of that before we get into the movie itself, this movie almost didn't happen. The original director dropped out within a month. He could not handle the job. He could not keep up with shooting. He could not keep up with the schedule. And they kind of put Kurt Russell in charge of everything, and they brought in another director, George P. Cosmatos, who had never done anything. I mean, it was like, what's this guy done before? He'd never done anything. So pretty much Kurt Russell directed this movie. If it wasn't for Kurt being in the lead in this movie, if they'd have done something else, we wouldn't have this movie today. I really believe that.
Well, let me correct you a little bit. So he does have a couple of films under his resume, but I think the bigger thing I think that works really well because the production was falling apart, right? Stallone had worked with Cosmatos on Rambo: First Blood Part 2. And same kind of thing. It's sort of like a director and names only. So you have sort of like the passion project person, which was Stallone for the Rambo movie. And here we have Tombstone and Kurt Russell. And George kind of is the nuts and bolts everyday director, going to call action, going to call cut, going to find pieces. But when it comes to the passion elements, calling in the favors, greasing the wheels, making sure producers are happy, making sure the story and the research and all. Kurt Russell is by far the glue that made all of this happen. The production company easily would have pulled the plug had he not sort of taken ownership of this project. So for sure. But Cosmatos is sort of like one of those like no-name actors from Italy who kind of worked in the shadow of Stallone because he worked with him on Rambo and Cobra. He did a film called Leviathan, which is kind of like one of those, knockoff creature type movies from that, late 80s, early 90s that had Peter Weller in it. Stan Winston did work on that film. And he's just sort of like, a functional, like sometimes you can have nuts and bolts creators. And I have to be honest, I can't bag on George because the end product is most of his movies are serviceable. They're good. This is the classic. This is the iconic one that everyone hangs their hat on. But we all know that behind the scenes, this is a Kurt Russell production. This is, that kind of thing. It's kind of like when you see Tarantino produce things. It's like, yeah, he didn't actually direct it, but it's his baby. You know what I mean? Those kinds of things. This definitely kind of fits into that for sure. But let's say hey to everybody in chat. I pulled the names up there, but let's go back around here. Adega Outlaw, the Mad Doctor is in the house. Hey there, brother. Thanks for hanging out with us. Chris Persia. Yes. Huckleberries. Yes. The Val Kilmer. It is just criminal. It is just criminal. This man did not have, a whole litany of sort of like accolades from this film. It really is. We think about, I really kind of put it sort of like in that Heath Ledger category where it's almost like he's so immersed and disappears when he's in that character. It's phenomenal.
So that was one of the big things of the film. That's what got a lot of attention. Was I believe there was a story that Siskel and Ebert missed out on the viewing that they were going to do, and they actually went and saw it on their own dime because everyone kept telling them, you have to see Val Kilmer. And the story was that they'd heard it over and over and over again, and they said, well, when you hear things like this, hear it once, twice, maybe three times, it might pique your curiosity when dozens of people are telling you, you have to see this movie just for this man's performance. That's when things start to change.
Yeah. And I will say this, and not to bag on Siskel or Ebert, but again, we had this conversation. I know you did a show on this, and other people have talked about the Rotten Tomatoes thing that's come to light. And I knew early on I wasn't going to fit in the club because I was a fan. You know what I mean? And these reviewers, if they didn't go to a screener, a lot of times they didn't see movies. I would hear them complain about a film that wouldn't give them a screener. Now, back in the day, that used to be sort of like they know the movie stinks. They don't want to get bad reviews out there. But what I come to find out was a lot of them are just not plugged into anything other than like the mainstream thing, like we've talked about, right? So it's like they're on the list. And you can easily get yourself kicked off the list, but if you're not on certain lists, you just don't get invites. You just get excluded from the club, and they will not spend their own money. They don't go see movies. So for Siskel and Ebert to do something like that, it was a bigger deal than even we can explain. That's for sure.
That's right.
Pat's in the house. Hey, brother. Great to see you, my friend. Saw Tabletop in here too. There he is. Hey there, brother. Checked out. He was live early today. I got to be able to get a chance to catch Tabletop doing some kind of cool stuff out there. Live catching my Eastern time. So that's cool. IRONCASTER. See. he's still working on his stuff. So, best modern Western, no doubt, 1982 present. See, and that's where we'll have to have some caveats and some footnotes. And I am not trying to say that I bag on this movie. So I'll let you make your case early on, then we'll walk through the movie a little bit. But like compared to like Unforgiven, which is to me, it's the culmination of the, Clint Eastwood Western career. Like it's a bookend for me, right? It's Good, Bad, and the Ugly that ends with Unforgiven, which is this incredibly dark, redemptive story that is just about vengeance and all this. It's sort of a much darker and personal story than this one is, where this one tends to be, as close to historical as they could get within the framework of what they were trying to accomplish. Like, I'm not going to debate facts and stuff because obviously there's multiple accounts, but they really, really went into the weeds on trying to make a historical account and that kind of thing. So with that take, is that a fair assessment to you?
In a way, some of it they did change and they did it on purpose. There's a big, do you remember the old Westerns when you like gunfight at the OK Corral? Remember that?
Yeah, of course I do. I'm totally down with the Western Saturdays. I made a comment about that here recently. Lady Miss is in the house, by the way. Who knows how long she'll stay, but we're happy to have her. So.
Good evening, Lady Miss. There's something really, really vital that is said at the end of the movie that you need to go back and like take it all in again. They talk at the end of this movie. There's the narrator who does an absolutely wonderful job at the beginning and the end of the movie. Says he's talking about Wyatt and what happened to Wyatt, and then he says at Wyatt's funeral, there was two legendary Hollywood stars that were at the beginning of Hollywood.
Yes,
one of those men's names was Tom Mix. Okay, so you see all these movies and all this stuff about the OK Corral, and the battles last like 10 minutes, the battles that you've got these big battles and people have rifles and people are shooting back and forth and all this stuff. Then you see this movie and the battle of the OK Corral takes like 60 seconds, if that. It's just,
it's more like fast. It's more like 30 to 45 seconds it's like so quick. Yeah, they're in the open. They weren't like behind covered wagons and all sorts of shenanigans that Hollywood likes to portray. Yeah.
Tom Mix met and befriended Wyatt Earp. Wyatt came in to be an advisor on a Western that they were doing where Tom Mix was going to play Wyatt Earp, and they became really good friends. And he told Tom, because Tom asked him, is this how it really happened? Is this what, really went down? And he told him it lasted about 45 to 60 seconds.
Yeah.
It was over before you could think. Fast, furious, done. And Tom Mix wrote all about this stuff that him and Wyatt went over about, the real Wyatt Earp. Just like Wyatt does with Doc in this movie, Tom does that with Wyatt later in life.
Yeah.
And Tom tried to impress upon them that a movie like this could work. A movie where you stick more to the real, how it really was, how fast it was, how furious it was. Whereas the Hollywood idea was, we're going to drag this out. We're going to have these long gun battles, and we're going to do all these shots where, a fight between the good guys and the bad guys lasts, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That's not how it happened. And Tom pushed that. And it is like, we have come to a revolution with this movie in Westerns where this is more of what really happened, and this is what they wanted. This is what Wyatt wanted to be told. I absolutely 100% believe that if Wyatt Earp was in charge of this movie, it would have gone exactly the way that Kurt Russell made it.
Well, they had two elements. One, they had Wyatt Earp III as part of the production, right?
Yes.
So he plays one of the characters. And then you have sort of, and again, to elaborate on what you were saying, is John Wayne did meet the actual Wyatt Earp and, heard some of the real life experiences that Wyatt had gone through, and has openly had openly talked about his swagger and some of his inspirations dating to Wyatt Earp, who, if nothing else, because if this film at least didn't shy away from, the womanizing part and poker and drinking and some of the elements that Hollywood didn't want to necessarily portray in the 50s and into the 60s and John Wayne, John Ford movies, things like that. But the film really kind of doesn't shy away from that. But what it does is it also portrays Wyatt Earp just being like stone cold calm in the middle of a gun battle. All right. So we see it in the OK Corral where everybody's moving around. He never moves. And we see it again later after, during the Curly Bill fight sequence, of just, the legendary scene, which again, all this stuff is rooted in reality. And when there are behind the scenes documentary, I believe there's even one on YouTube. I watched it like a month ago, and I was listening to like Thomas Hayden Church talk about his character, and obviously Michael Biehn talking about his. Like, they all really had some history and as an actor, that's what they all talk about wanting to do. I know Powers Booth talks about working in theater, same thing. It's like, this is what we talk about. We talk about an ensemble and getting to immerse yourself in these characters and things like that, and then just kind of letting this script breathe and come to life. So
the two other guys you mentioned that fight with Curly Bill.
Mm-hmm.
The two guys that were with Wyatt and Doc, both of them reported after, because it wasn't exactly the way what you see in the movie isn't exactly the way it went down, but they were surrounded. They were caught in a crossfire. 4 guys against 8 caught in a crossfire, and Wyatt got them out of it. Wyatt went and walked right towards Curly Bill Brosse's and shot him dead in front of all of his men, and they scattered. He had 8 bullet holes in his trench coat. 8 bullet holes in his coat where he was shot at, and it is his coat, but it did not hit him. That's like walking in front of a car and it's not hitting you for whatever reason. No one behind the wheel. It's insanity.
Yeah.
You're surrounded. You're being shot at from both sides. You walk right up and you shoot a man, and every shot that should have hit you missed and hit your coat.
Yeah. I think it is the so obviously you're speaking about Turkey Creek and Texas Jack. They're in that sequence, right? And I think it is the I think it's Texas Jack's. One of you, somebody in chat, Chris, one of you guys will take care of this for me. I think it is Texas Jack wrote about, they did a biography, like he's literally on his deathbed and someone's interviewing him, because it's going to be like in the 1920s. And that's when you sort of get like confirmation of some of those details. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone else is running for the hills and taking cover, and Wyatt's just standing there. Right. So that sort of,
and just
that's
walks
where sort of
right up to Curly Bill and shoots him.
He doesn't miss a beat there. It's crazy. So PKL, my brother, I got to get over to his channel and get catch. Talk about a great creator. Does like fun stuff. So yeah, awesome. Brett, thanks for hanging out with us. Says Will's Good, Bad, and the Ugly, maybe the greatest. Tombstone is still an incredible movie. Hope you're doing well. Yes, listen, trust me, I've said it. I won't say it again. This is an incredible film. I'm not trying to. I have all 3 of them at 9s, and that's probably low. They're 9.5 to 10s. I don't know what I would change. This was supposed to be like a 3-hour epic, and it had a lot more of like the romance stuff and the relationshipy stuff. And I will say the only negative of this film is in the second half of this film, it felt like tedious. Like, I just don't care about her. Like, I didn't need, I don't need a discarded. I just think that's where the slowdown, that's the issues are. Good, Bad, and the Ugly, long film, probably a little too long. Could tighten that film up as well. And again, this is why Unforgiven gets to be in that class, because I think it's the tightest of the 3, but it's not as deep and not as interesting and dynamic as the other 2 films. So it needs to be called a Kurt Russell joint. See, that's appropriate. Yes. I think Kurt Russell would nod with that. He would actually get a big smile out of that, actually. So yes. Lots of hellos. Love seeing everybody getting along and stuff. Just great. Love hanging all you people out together. It's so great. So
no, because it'll end up being like a shark western or something, Ironcaster. It'll be some kind of like western with a shark going through town or something. We can't do now. Not again.
Where you're at. Again. You're probably ahead of me. I'm on this one.
Yeah, he says you won't let him pick out a western.
Oh no, there is no chance I'm letting him pick western. No, we got this under control schedule wise. You're hands off the wheel for a minute, brother. Happy. Unforgiven is unfortunately an anti-western. There's no redemption in it, only vengeance and backsliding. Well, but that's William Money. That's William Money. That's fine. So lovely Sherry is also here. So the OK Corral was real. I thought it was Star Trek TOS. Yes, good reference. We get that. And you got to get the actress. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'd agree with Pat on that.
What do you mean?
It's not that it's actually opposite of that. The backsliding, because he would have just left. Okay, if that was true, he would have said at the end of that movie, he said, "This is too much trouble. At the end of the day, she's just a whore," and he would have left. And he went
I
back
think
into that town and
so.
he pulled his friend out and
Yeah, so I think what Pat so Pat's almost like making a religious reference, I think, to backsliding because of the alcoholism and stuff. Like it brought out the worst in Clint Eastwood's character, and it becomes vengeance. So it's like the movie is a certain direction, and then once Morgan Freeman's character is on murdered and on display like that, it becomes like a completely different film. And he literally grabs the bottle in his rage, and that's the part where the movie shifts and becomes like a vengeful. But again, the historical elements and what they're going for, I think, is much more important than us trying to overanalyze a redemptive arc. Because in a lot of ways, it is still a redemptive arc in a lot of other ways because of what he had done. So,
well,
yeah,
if he hadn't have done it, he probably would have died on that little farm he had along with
yep.
his kids.
Yeah, we're just
So
aged out. Yeah.
yeah, he would have aged out and they wouldn't have had any animals to take care of because all their animals were getting sick and they probably would have died. And he did what he had to do for his family, even though it was against what his wife wanted. I don't want to get too much into this because I know we're here to talk about Tombstone and not talk about Unforgiven, but I don't know. I don't know if it was a complete backslide. I think it was more about he had a job to do to take care of his family, and at the end of the day, he had the chance to walk, but he didn't.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Bobby, there is sort of like some historical, controversies surrounding Johnny Ringo, whether there was actually a shootout or not, or he committed suicide. So I think it is actually more widely accepted that he, deleted himself. However, there's also stuff where Earp was very adamant about during interviews and things like that. So I don't necessarily have reasons to, get caught up in all that. I really don't. I'm just take it for what it is and just kind of roll with it. So, let's see. Did I miss anything else? Yeah, we're not doing that. So, good, bad, and the toothy. Good, bad, and the shark fest. That's what happened. So, would there even be a shark themed Western? I realize Ironcaster would probably find one. I'm sure there is. Well, there's Sand Shark, whatever that one was. That was close enough. So, the film actually, I have to admit, 'cause I know Ironcaster normally kind of runs our sort of like share the screen kind of thing for me. But the first act of the film is really one of those that on the rewatches, because I've watched it now twice in the last week or so. How compact it is. You know what I mean? There's really, yes, Wyatt does confront Ike in the saloon, in the gambling hall. There's really not a lot of gunplay. There's not a lot of conflict. There's not a lot. It's just a lot of characters. And I guess somebody had said there's like over 80 speaking parts in this movie. That's crazy, isn't it? 80?
Crazy.
That's nuts.
And there was going to be more. There was going to be a lot more.
Yeah, it was going to be a 3-hour epic, right?
Yeah. Kurt Russell cut out a lot of stuff because they were behind schedule. So they pretty much were like, what do we need to cut out and what do we need to keep? And what they kept was all because of Kurt Russell.
This is a great point. Is that they're both villains. And I wanted your take on this too, because really Powers Booth in a lot of ways is like, he's malicious. Obviously the biggest conflict he puts himself in, it triggers the violence, is because he was completely drunk and wasted. But he's constantly dealing with Ringo because of how evil Ringo is. There's literally like, oh man, this guy's when he's in charge, you guys are totally doomed. This guy's completely, yeah.
And that right there, they established that at the very beginning of the movie. God, Lord help us when Ringo's in charge of this outfit. I'm gone. Lord help all of you, because he's gonna make everybody pay.
He just sees blood. It's like, so the opening sequence involves a village where they've gone in to, act vengeance on the murder of not the murder, but just the killing of two of their own, the brothers. And Ringo has no problem about taking care of the priest. That's
No,
like totally like
absolutely not.
uncharted territory. Like, you don't do that. Don't do that. But nope, not for Ringo. Not for Ringo. So yeah, it was great stuff, PK. And I think that was, you know what's interesting? I feel like this is sort of like, it happens again. It happens with many, many films. We probably should do a whole thing on this and kind of take a pause, but is when you can have two villains that are not alike, but they're sort of like playing off one another. And I think it's like the Tarkin and Vader thing, right? They're not exactly alike, but they're, one is significantly more evil and the motivations are different, but they're both the villains, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they are. Curly Bill has got his own issues, his own demons, and Ringo is his mad dog killer. If you need someone gone, put Ringo in charge of it, and he'll make sure it happens.
Right.
And like Ringo says later in the movie, what would you do if you sold your soul to the devil? And he said, I've already done it. Because he thinks he's the fastest. I'll give anything and do anything to be the fastest killer ever. That's what he thinks. He had yet to meet Doc Holliday.
Yeah, he's just a monster, right? He just revels in the evil of it all. And yeah. Whereas Curly Bill's sort of like leader of the pirates, leader of the chaos and stuff like that. So Ironcaster's already figured it out. Night of the Sharks. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Princess Leia Rose is here. Hey, lady. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you and have you with us. That kind of thing. Where are you at on? So again, I think this is the weakest element of this film is trying to document and try to figure out how to handle. And again, I'm glad they do it because this is what makes the movie also deeper and interesting. Is Wyatt's wife versus the lady that's kind of turned his eye, Josephine.
What's your question?
I just wanted your take on it and how it kind of plays out and kind of how, because I don't know how.
Here's what they don't tell you. And this is some of the stuff that was cut out that they don't tell you. Wyatt's wife was not his first wife. His first wife died, I believe it was malaria or smallpox. Smallpox. So Wyatt's first wife dies of smallpox. And he eventually gets back with his brothers in it's where they're always saying he's from. He was a lawman in
Kansas
City, right?
Wichita.
Kansas, lawman in Wichita, right? So he meets his wife there, and she is a whore. She works at a whorehouse. He goes, he's seeing her when the family decides they're going to leave and they're going to move to Tombstone and they're going to do all the things, we're all going to be together again. Like they talk about at the beginning of the movie, he takes her and they get married. He supposedly had absolutely little feeling for her or anyone else at that point in time in his life. When he met Josephine, that all changed. And he fell in love with her. And obviously, eventually, he marries her. But the woman he brings to Tombstone in this movie, the one that ends up getting hooked on laudanum, and she eventually overdoses. She was a whore that he met in Kansas, in Wichita, and in Dodge City. And they had serious problems before they ever went to Tombstone. So, but this was supposed to be their new beginning. Their start over. Obviously, it doesn't work out that way, does it?
No. Yeah. And I think they downplay. I guess there's not, because there is that line they say pretty early on about, where do you think they met her? Where do you think he met her? That same place we did. You know what I mean? It's like these are reformed prostitutes that are settling down with gunslingers. Everyone's got baggage. Everyone's got history. Everyone's got issues. Maddie had hers. And, to be honest, I mean, Josephine's got hers. It's just different. It's just not it's a different kind of thing, right? She's more of like the free spirit. And that's kind of what Doc wanted. I mean, so that's what Wyatt wanted. She wanted to go for the free spirit for a while. So,
and believe it or not, the craziest out of all the women isn't Maddie. It's Big Nose Kate. It's Kate. It's Doc's wife. She is absolutely crazy. She ends up getting killed too, that they never show in this movie. But She was the crazy out of all of them. There are stories galore out there about the things that Big Nose Kate and Doc Holliday did to each other. There's all this was the it doesn't matter. You can take Wyatt and Maddie and talk about how messed up their relationship was. It doesn't come anything close to the relationship that Kate had with Doc.
I was I don't know. I was, scrolling on my phone reading about Big Nose Kate at one point here recently about all this. And one of the accounts that's kind of like back and forth on is that she saw the OK Corral shootout and was like traumatized by it.
Yeah.
Like she was close enough to see it. She couldn't believe it all was happening. You have to remember, it's just men just facing off, just shooting at each other. And the fact that Doc could come away from that unscathed is just, it's hard to get that out of your head, not having dreams and nightmares and everything else. So, not particularly healthy for your relationship moving forward anyway. So,
and this isn't, and it is very much the way they depicted it. There was no like, oh, we're going to hide behind a fence and we're going to shoot over our shoulders or any of that. It's like you are within 10 feet of the person pulling out a pistol or a rifle or a shotgun and shooting at you.
mm-hmm.
And that's what you're in the middle of. And that's the chaos that's going on all around you. That's one of the reasons why this will always be my top one favorite Western of all time, is because that's the shit that happened.
Yeah, there is sort of like a lot of gunfights and not really showing people dying. So yeah, I have a 10 movie collection, Western movies. Haven't opened it. Watch one. Well, you should jump right in, man. There's a lot of good Westerns out there. I got a Western playlist on my channel. Feel free to dabble with some of those things I've talked about here, from John Wayne to Eastwood, and now we're adding Tombstone to that list, so that'll be out there. So,
and I love Eastwood, man. I love Clint Eastwood's one of my favorites actors of all time. Nothing against his movies, absolutely nothing. I just fell in love with this movie, and it's my favorite. Whether it's your favorite or not, it's completely up to you. But this is my top number one Western of all time.
This is the topic where I probably waffle the most. Favorite Western. And I was like, I can't pick among the three. I have them sort of like as a pillar. I don't know what to do. I like them more. I rewatched them significantly more than any of the John Wayne movies and all of the other Clint Eastwood movies, even though I could list off, 5 or 6 more of those that I think are also great. And I mean great, meaning like 9s, like 8s and 9s. They're so good. But these 3 are so excellent. This one is, I think, again, also the ensemble cast, which we'll come back around to more here in a minute. So, but yeah, as I say hey to Tommy, Keely Chow is here as well. Saw us in the cinema. Yeah, back in the day. Yeah, not perfect, but great time. Yeah, it's so good, so much good. So, Wyatt Earp, when he stated, reffing boxing matches, fixed a fight. Only time he wore his guns to the ring. That's funny. Yeah. So yeah, feel free to dabble with the list. So, how impactful do you feel the musical score? Oh, the musical score at times just takes you away.
Yeah.
Really does. And again, not to keep beating the same horse, but yeah, Unforgiven and Good, Bad, the Ugly, the music. And again, I think this is very crucial to Westerns, because you need to have a good score to give you the full immersion experience, to really, really get you in. You know what I mean? And immerse you in the experience of the Old West and life and things like that. So, yeah, Old Henry is near the top of my list of Westerns I haven't seen yet. So I've heard more than one people talking about that. So agreed. And then Dwayne Rock's in here. So, hey, brother, thanks for having me. So, well, I want to touch on like the other cast members too. We talk about Val and Kurt Russell, I think, are great, but Sam Elliott and Bill Paxton, they kind of get overshadowed in some ways. But I think that when you hear them talk about their characters, and then when you do a little bit of digging of Virgil and Morgan, and there was another brother that's just sort of like excluded from all this. We don't talk about the other brother. There's another brother who was there. He wasn't really at OK Corral, but he was there in town. He joined the hunt after the fact, that kind of thing. So that I think that brother is that. I see him. Newton.
Well, there's some alternate stuff.
There's several.
Too.
Yeah.
Like Bat Masterson. So in this movie, Bat Masterson's a cowboy. In reality, Bat Masterson worked with the Earps in Kansas. So in oh God, why can't I remember the name of that damn city?
Wichita.
Yeah. So So Bat knew the Earps, and Bat had worked with the Earps. Bat didn't work with the Cowboys, but eventually Bat Masterson joins up with the Earps to get revenge after all that stuff. So yeah, you've got so many great characters, and Virgil, Sam Elliott, absolutely top-notch acting. Absolutely top-notch acting. And I could completely believe that he's Wyatt's older brother. I mean, look at them. You got that picture above us right there. I absolutely positively believe the three men on the right are brothers. Val's the only one that looks like he might not be related.
Yeah. And by the way, the stories, if you go back and just Google behind the scenes or them doing actual interviews and they talk about Val. So Val would be on set and he'd just be in like his shirt and his Bermuda shorts and flip flops, typical Val stories. It's all the same. And then when he's in character and he comes out of his trailer with the full costume on, he's got his guns spinning around, and so it's fascinating. It's just fascinating. Just a cool story. Lots of stories. So yeah. Tommy says John Wayne back in the day was fun. Did most of the movies at the time. Yeah, John's got a lot of great movies. So I'm not trying to take away from, Rio Bravo, The Searchers are probably the two that stand out to me the most. I'm not going to take away too much from like Red River or anything like that, but those are the two that stand out the most to me is The Searchers and Rio Bravo. The Shootist, yeah. I know there's so many. Matt's here, a common idiot. Hey there, brother.
And other movies kind of portrayed Doc as this like, I wouldn't say sick, but kind of out of control gunman that just didn't care about anything. Whereas this guy was a dentist. He went to medical school. He was very intelligent. He did not grow up like an outlaw or a gunslinger. He became that. And you get all this stuff. Like when he's speaking Latin, when Doc's speaking Latin, better time. And you're like, wait a minute, what? He was a educated man.
Yes. Yeah.
So Val acting like that was perfect. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say they just did a really good job. I wish they had touched or at least made mention of him being a dentist. When they talk about him being friends, I wish they had just said, I've known him since he was a dentist or something like that. I wish they would have just had like one little line so people would just dive a little deeper. You know what I mean? You just love little nuggets to get them. It probably got cut out. It's probably part of the 3 hours pages. Is you know what I mean? Because he. I don't know. It just seems like too. Once he got diagnosed with tuberculosis, he become more of a wild man. Like he, a gambler. He'd rob a stagecoach. He'd just do some crazy things. It's like, dude, he's gonna die anyway. He just does it. He was more in tune with his medical condition. These people around him could tell him. He knew. He's a genius. He was so smart ahead of his time, being well read and stuff. So
it was his bucket list.
Yeah. Why not?
Could go out and do whatever he wanted to. Yeah,
guns and blades. But I agree with you. I don't think he was ever like Billy the Kid crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's no, and I do think there was also propensity, I think, for a lot of the portrayals of Wyatt and Doc, other movies, things like that. Like they'd be portrayed as like adversaries. The friendship wasn't really part of the story, or Doc was very irrational because of his illness and things like that. I think those are films of their time. Those were films that were glomming on the fact that Doc did end up in a sanitarium, things like that. You know what I mean? I think they're films of their time. I don't think it's meant to be as historically accurate. It's just the nature of the film. So,
and that's
Jesse James. Yeah, no, definitely not a Jesse James. He just wasn't that kind of guy. He wasn't on like the bandit side of things. You know what I mean? But most of these guys, it was so morally gray. Virgil is the one I think that had more of the reputation. Well, Morgan was more like the younger, naive. He was like Faith. He had like the hotter wife, things like that. Morgan was more like the stand-up stereotype, who there's less sort of, I want to say, stories about. Is that the best way to say it, Loki? Like there's just not as much baggage about Virgil compared to like even Wyatt with the drinking and the women, whereas Virgil's a lot more. Like has more of a stand-up sort of like resume, if you will.
Lawman. He becomes a lawman after
with one arm.
All this, with one arm, he becomes a one-arm lawman. and it ran in their family. Their father was a judge in was it Abilene? I think it was Abilene. Their father was a judge in Abilene. So the Wyatts knew law. The Wyatts were the Earps knew law. They were raised by law. They were raised to respect the law. Whereas you've got people like Johnny Ringo and Curly Bill that absolutely, they just didn't care. They wanted to run everything. It didn't matter to them what the law was. And if they got in trouble, it was just something they could manipulate and bend to get out of it. So it didn't matter. And there was a lot of talk about, since you brought up, the way Doc was and the way he was portrayed, that Doc and son of a bitch, I can't remember his name. Doc and not Curly Bill, but the other one.
I'm not sure who you're thinking of, so I'm not sure.
Well, you had Curly Bill, and you had.
Are you talking about Ringo again? Or
Ringo, thank you.
Okay,
thank you, Curly Bill and Ringo. So you had Doc and you have Ringo. Both Doc and Ringo are pretty much the best at what they do. What Ringo says about losing his soul, that's the only thing Doc still has. He sold off everything else. He lives with a whore. He sleeps with a whore every night. He does what he wants. He drinks. He gambles. He knows he's going to die. He knows that his time's running out, but he still has his soul, and he still stands with the people that actually matter to him because they stood with him when he needed it. Ringo doesn't have that. Ringo's exactly the opposite of that, and that's why he ends up losing.
I think it's fascinating too because the film. I don't know about you, but it makes me want to cheer for Wyatt, and the fact that I know, I found out, obviously I've, enjoyed reading more about this stuff way after the fact, but to know that he lived to be like 80, you know what I mean? He lived to be able to meet John Wayne. That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
And that's really cool, man. It's like the guy that would bring Westerns to, everyone else for years. So you mentioned the narrator, Robert Mitchum. The mayor is even, if you guys are not familiar with Terry O'Quinn, he's the bald guy in Lost. So this cast is crazy. But wait, I think we have him. Let's see. How you doing, brother?
I can hear you guys.
We can hear you. All right, let's rock and roll. All
right.
And for those of you who don't know, this was the first time Ironcaster watched this movie, and I purposely put this in there. And I don't know if you got a chance to see this or not, because this is how Ironcaster treated Loki and I over watching Tombstone. This went on behind the scenes for a minute or two, so just so you know.
Keep tight, Marshal.
Nope.
Any last words?
Nope.
What do you want on your tombstone?
Pepperoni and cheese.
Time for Tombstone Pizza, made with the good stuff. Real pepperoni, real cheese, so it's always real good. What do you want on your tombstone?
Just a little taste?
Nope.
Always better than Red Baron, I'll tell you that.
That's for sure. I was going to try to put together a whole litany of those for an intro and just didn't get to. But yeah, there were plenty of pizza jokes flying around, and yeah. How was the first screening for you, my brother?
So, a couple of things that stand out to me. Bill Paxton sort of blends into the background for me with this movie. Like, I feel like, yeah, he's in it, but he's kind of unmemorable.
Okay.
Of course, Sam Elliott stands out just for being Sam Elliott.
Okay.
Of course, Val Kilmer steals every scene he's in.
Absolutely.
It's like, there's really not a whole lot you can really say negative about the film. This is, I know, as many have said before, this is one of those quintessential Westerns. This is fantastic.
Okay.
And also, I've heard it quoted about 1 million times. I'll be
now you have reference.
Don't you want to play for blood? I'm your Huckleberry. That's just my game.
I'm your Huckleberry. Now Ironcaster will know what that means when we start quoting it again.
I beg to differ, sir. Play for blood, remember? I was only punning around. I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. There's so many great lines, so many great moments. You know, Ironcaster, you're no Daisy. You're no Daisy at all.
Like my favorite line was the one. This was the one I had quoted earlier about oh, he's educated. Of course, I hate him.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. The cosmopolitan line always makes me smile a little bit about being cosmopolitan. How cosmopolitan of you. Yes. So the film, the three acts, I think, just blend really, really well. Like I said, there's a little bit of the slowdown because of the relationshipy stuff, but the fact that that was part of what they were trying to capture with Wyatt's story, I think, deserves a lot more credit than it does negatives. I think what carries the film is just the incredible performances, the devout attention to every detail on. I mean, I got to be honest, I don't know of a Western. I know there are Westerns that had like colors, like there's, a lot of colors have, a lot of Westerns had some reds and things like this, but this movie's costuming and the way the set design and stuff like that it is incredible. Incredible. Any thoughts? Comments?
No, you're absolutely right. The set design is wonderful in this as well. I mean, down to like sort of this kind of mixing of all the cultures together as like the Wild West is becoming this place that's really the place to be.
Well, Tombstone become the place to be because of the silver rush, right? I know when the set designer was talking in one of her interviews, she was talking about how many photos they used to try to capture some of these things. So they would recreate, the chandelier and the ornate woodwork inside the saloon and the hotel, things like that. But I think you're right. Like these places become the places to be for various reasons. And then, of course, with the wealth and the money and all that comes some of the lawlessness, right?
Let me pull up a couple images here, just
Okay.
Some things that stood out.
While you're doing that, Michael Rooker is obviously McMaster's. Harry Carey Jr., a famous actor as well, is Fred, the marshal that gets shot. Jason Priestley has a small role as Billy. We didn't even mention Billy Zane. Billy Zane getting shot. Yeah, that was great.
As the theater performer. Yes.
Which was a really fun scene because in the first part of it, you weren't really quite sure how it was going to play out. And then when they all cheer for him and stuff, and you realize, this is really interesting.
Prettiest man I ever saw.
John Corbett has a role. Oh, this is great because this is actually based on a real tombstone. This seems very silly.
Moore,
Yeah.
Slugs from a 44, no less, no more. Yes.
Yeah, that's based on a real tombstone. So like the set is being recreated, but that's actually based on a real tombstone. So that was really great. I always love that shot. So they did a lot of work to try to, because they filmed on two locations. So they have one, there, and then they have a different location. So you really want to try to make the town big and in scale. So, so many extras, and they had like a whole group of, what do they call them? I don't want to say LARPers, but they're basically like the reenactors. Right, they had like 50 or so of them where they come into town. They've got their own guns and their own horse, and they slept outside. It was like, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. So some of these extras were like really, really into this stuff. So it's really awesome. Oh, there we go. We get some scale, some of the detail with the woodwork and stuff on the sets, with the mountain range in the background. It is fun to talk about this. What was that?
It's real pretty like.
It really is pretty like. It really, really is. Yeah, it's nice. You feel very immersed. This film just really delivers in that regard. You just feel like you really get there. So,
I really liked sort of the little kind of more obvious subtext though of the play they're watching is Faust. How it's very much in line with like Kurt with Kurt Russell's kind of going through. He's being asked to, you know, pick up the gun and be this lawman once more, which is a life he's trying to put behind so he can just kind of go out and kind of live this life and just kind of have this very selfish desire only for the danger there. And as far as the movie story goes, this is the fantastic, like, kind of a bit not so much subtle, but it's a good way of kind of showing the struggle.
Well, I think it's also, you know, Lady Loki, Faust really kind of, you got an overlapping here with not just Wyatt, but you also have some with what would be for Doc and what would be for Ringo. So you have different stages and pieces with what the deal with the devil is for all three of those characters in particular.
Is your soul for sale, dear?
Mm-hmm.
Except for his brother, his younger brother,
Morgan.
Morgan is the only one really that was there that really doesn't know what the score is. Wyatt knows, Doc knows, the Cowboys know. Morgan's really the only one that was there that really doesn't know what the score is. He thinks he does. He's like, I can't wait to, you know, gun a bad guy down, and that's not the way it works.
Yeah, I think that's where the Bill Paxton's character is important, because it does create the lens for the audience to have someone to connect to about the naivete of all this, like how hard Wyatt is. But, you know, and Virgil's in the middle. Like, Virgil's hard. He's gone through a lot of stuff as well. But then Wyatt is just like scorched earth, right? So, you know, you're kind of like, well, why wouldn't you just step up, do what needs to be done? It's like, oh boy, it's a slippery slope of how that gets and how that gets you the scars that you have to bear. And Morgan, you know, shoots one guy and he's already suffering from some PTSD, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. I enjoyed actually all the minutia of this film to me also bring to light life there, whether it be the card games. I think Deadwood does a better job of sort of like, you know, portrayal of like a whorehouse, or maybe some of the saloon life being a lot dirtier and things like that. But I mean, you know, Tombstone's supposed to be one of like the classier, big up and coming kind of places. So I'm fine either way. But look at how iconic some of these shots are. They're just beautiful. It's incredible.
And I mean, these are the sort of shots that aren't just like iconic to this movie, but these are like some of the most iconic, like almost tropes of the genre that of course you've got to get in here. You got to have them all on the horseback, riding like out of the sun. They're all these black silhouettes. Of course you got to have the hat on. It is the quintessential like elements of Western.
Okay. And I would say too that I think that this is where George Cosmatos is bringing some of that history there. Like, it's very easy to see and read between the lines with some of the conversations and interviews that Kurt Russell and others have talked about, where so we kind of want this, we want this, we want that. And like, George seems like the perfect director to pull from a John Ford movie for this look, pull from this for this look, you know, well, I'm going to track down Charlton Heston, make sure we have him. Kurt, can you call his agent and make sure we can get him at scale? I mean, you can just feel everything coming together to be like the perfect storm for this film to be great.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. Getting Heston was, put it over the top completely.
Crazy, isn't it? And there's so many actors. We could just keep going, whether it be Robert Burke, whether it be Stephen Lang. I mean, it just keeps going. The incredible lineup of characters and actors. I mean, Stephen Lang as Ike, it's almost shocking to believe that's the guy that was in Terra Nova and Avatar. You're like, oh my gosh, that is the guy. He's Ike. Oh, Ike is such a great character too. And I know people are like, what? It's like, well, think about how hard it would be to get your head around someone who plays every version of crazy, of fear and being a coward, and also being the aggressor. He speaks very much in terms of he speaks in terms like the third person, right? So it's almost like the brotherhood of the Cowboys means something different to Ike than others, because he talks differently about it, things like that. All cylinders, man, all cylinders. Hey, Tabletop, you take care, brother. Take care. Awesome, folks. Make sure you check out Tabletop for some interesting content, some live streams, things like that. So definitely some good stuff. So
we gotta sit down. We gotta talk some tabletop soon, buddy.
yeah, absolutely. What is Ironcaster? What was one of your takeaways from how OK Corral went? Because obviously that's something that everybody kind of knows at least a little bit about the history and that kind of thing, and you see it kind of play out the way it does. What was kind of your reaction to that?
I mean, just kind of the fact that it happened so quickly that it's like two things. First, the fact that it happens so quickly, but also the fact that it happens like sort of so soon in the film. It felt like, not really stopping to consider like that there's going to be some major ramifications from the shootout, from the bad blood on both sides.
Right, because I think that because we have Behan say that he's unarmed them, and I think that the history kind of points to the fact that only a couple of them are armed. So yeah, the Earps didn't go there with good intentions. The film likes to play a little fast and loose with the moral compass of all of this. But I love the fact that it was portrayed as being like Loki, you and I were talking about earlier. Like it's portrayed pretty close to being just a few seconds. Like this wasn't drawn out. No one's jumping for cover and things like that. This isn't some drawn out thing. They're at point blank range, man. This was for keeps.
And they walked right up to him. 4 men walked up to them and said, "Give us your guns." And they knew that that Behan hadn't gotten their weapons. They knew that. They knew that as soon as he told them. They didn't. He didn't. He lied to him. He lied to him. There is a picture. So if you look behind Ike in that picture right there, you're going to see to the left of that a black and white sign, and that what you're missing above gallery is photography. In that studio is Wyatt's future wife, who is Josephine Marcus, played by Dana Delaney.
Dana Delaney, yep.
That picture she is taken in this, they actually still have that picture. So if you go to Dodge City, I don't know if they have the Tombstone or not, because I don't remember seeing it while I was there, but they do have that picture in Dodge City. They actually have the picture that she took in that room while all this was going on outside. And as you can see, Ike runs in there, jumps in there, and like starts shooting from the window in the middle of all this. That actually happened. So the picture you see her get snapped when she turns around in the scene and like covers herself, they still have that picture. You can still see that picture.
Fascinating. Did not know that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Before we get, because we're already at 6:30, so my time, so 5:30 your time. I want to get to a little bit about the final act, Ironcaster, the sort of like the vengeance act, right? So they're going to hunt down 100 cowboys. They start ticking them off the list, little here, little there, and we have like sort of like, I don't know, I don't want to say cliche moments, but you have sort of like, gunfire, throw a body down, kicking somebody, just randomness that creates sort of like chaos to kind of capture all of this. I love this because I've really embraced this concept of I call it I don't know, I told somebody the other day, the Rocky training montage, right? Where he's punching the slabs of beef in the slaughterhouse, right? Training. It's like, well, how long is your Rocky montage, right? It's like that 30-second sequence is years or months or whatever. Same thing with the Tombstone sequence. Like these few minutes is, quite a long time, right? But it's done so well. It makes me enjoy it so much.
I sent that photo to your Twitter. Yes, that is the actual photo she took. She's dressed the same way in the movie too. So they did their homework. These guys did their effing homework before they made this movie.
I can share that. That's not that revealing, is it?
I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't, but that's why they just add it. That's why I sent it there. So
it's fine.
She's got some nipping. She's nipping a little bit, but
we're gonna be
This was considered a very risque photo back then.
Sure. Well, we will
look at Iron
look at
Caster.
that. Oh, we'll go to red. How's that? Oh, it hides too much. You guys can see it, right, guys? See? How about there?
There you go. That's Josephine Marcus. That's the one that Wyatt Earp would eventually fall in love with.
All right, there we go. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, very, very racy first time for sure.
I think one of the moments that stands out for me most with this movie is where, you know, Kurt Russell, where they're on the riverside and they're having the shootout there. And I think I said something to the effect of in kind of the private chats, like, why don't more people use this no clip where he's running out. No.
I'm going to now. You brought it up. I've got it written down to pull that clip to use in some sort of video. And
No.
I watch shows so you don't have to. So it's coming soon.
Hey Pops, you want to watch a shark movie?
No.
And then
Ironcaster's going to pick a Western. No. It was so much fun. Kind of just going through this movie, enjoying it. I usually watch it kind of free, just go through it, have fun. Then I kind of do more like pausing, rewind, kind of like a little here, a little there, really taking it in. My wife was just like, are you watching Tombstone again? Or are you still, yeah. I'm like, it was, are you watching it again? Or are you still going through it? My answer was, yeah.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah, it was, yeah. It's the watching it again. It's like the 4-hour version. It's me pausing and rewinding and enjoying, soaking up different shots, looking at the background, looking at the characters reacting in the background. I think doesn't get a lot of credit sometimes. Just these guys, they were bringing the game, man. John Tenney, even as Johnny is Behan. I mean, we just look. I think sometimes when you have characters that you don't like or you're not supposed to like or whatever, it's like, but he pulls his character off. It's like we can't just look the other way or how well people play the secondary, third, fourth, tertiary type characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an art.
It truly felt like we lived in town.
Oh yeah, which was incredible because they built all this stuff. Like a lot of this stuff was just done from photos and things like I said, folks, if you just look up the behind the scenes thing, I think even YouTube has one. It's like 30 minutes or so. I know I listened to a couple interviews, but they have one of them that involves the set design, the lady that runs the set design. And yeah, it was fascinating. It's a good time. Definitely a good time. So.
I think one of the other standout moments for me is where Doc Holliday is getting into the argument with the guy at the saloon, and the guy's like, and the other guy's trying to coax him into a shootout right there.
Oh, Ringo! Yes.
Yeah,
Twirling his guns. The guns twirling show. Yeah, Michael Biehn was showing off. Yeah.
So what does Doc Holliday do? Well, he does the same thing, but with a cup.
Mm-hmm.
It's his way of showing that anybody can spin a gun. It's not about how you can spin a gun or how many ways you can turn it or twirl it or whatever. None of that matters. Only things matter is if you're faster or not.
Yes. One of the lines that doesn't get anywhere is the line when he says, I'm going to get it wrong. I paraphrase these lines. I don't write them down. I have not yet begun to defile myself or whatever.
Yes.
I think it's great. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Val Kilmer just deserved an Oscar and totally got cheated. I don't quite understand what the rule was because they didn't
like him as from
he's difficult to work with.
He's difficult to work with, and they did not like him. So it's how much group ass can you kiss for an award? Well, if they don't like you, doesn't matter what good you do in your job, you're not going to get it if they don't like you.
Yeah, because this is the year that I want to make sure I had the right year pulled up, but yeah, it's correct. So the year that Tommy Lee Jones won for Fugitive, and it was kind of weird because it was almost like a token prize because he even beat DiCaprio in what's called What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which to me is a phenomenal immersion. Like DiCaprio, it's one of DiCaprio's probably most underrated performances ever. And it's like, and then of course Val Kilmer didn't even get nominated. Like it's so ridiculous. Yeah, crazy. Let's see. How are we doing on time? All right, I'm doing pretty good. Let me check my pull chat back up, make sure I missed anything. Good. All right, guys. Any other sort of breakdown or thoughts? 'Cause I mean, again, you mentioned the twirling scene. We didn't really spin any wheels there. That was good. I'm glad you brought that up. Other characters, other scenes we should kind of get into a little bit.
I mean, it's sort of one of these movies that genuinely does feel like everyone should watch it at least once.
I agree.
Yeah, it's my wife watched it. She's fine with it. I mean, it's not her thing. I don't think Mrs. Pop's going to be out there. Listen, just turn Tombstone on or anything like that. But it's not a racing movie or anything like that. It's fine. I think it's rated R because of the violence and the shooting, but it's not blood splatter violence. I don't understand their R rating on this one because I think the rating on this one has not aged well. I would not rate this an R. This to me is a PG-13 movie. Maybe that's because I've softened so much on violence, but
I thought I was having kind of, as I was laying in bed last night, I was as I kind of had a little time to kind of sit and stew on it a little bit. And I actually kind of wanted to watch it again because I'll stop and kind of ask myself, would I want to watch this again in 2-3 months? And I think that's sort of a good measure of if how good is a movie. A measure on how good a movie can be. There are some crap movies that I'll go back and I'll watch in a heartbeat. It's not good, but it's fun. Then there's the phenomenal movies that I'm this was a movie I only needed to see once.
Yeah, one and done movie. Right.
Yeah.
This is the rewatchability quotient, right? The rewatchability quotient has to factor into, how things get into the elite level. This is the difference between an 8 and the 9s and the 10s. The 8 is the one and done. It can be a 9, the Oscar, Schindler List. I'm not really sitting through this movie again. It's engaging. I can respect it for what it is. It's art. It's beautiful. It's historic. It checks all the boxes, but is no rewatchability for me at all.
Is it a movie I want to own on DVD?
Right, correct. Yeah. And if that's your criteria, but definitely the rewatchability. And then compared to someone like Loki, who had talked about watching this movie 4 times a year, quarterly.
Yeah, quarterly. Yeah. I do too. I love it.
That puts it into the 10, right? It's in that category with Wrath of Khan and The Crow and stuff for you, where you're watching this stuff 300. It's the 10 that are just there on the top of the desk, on the top of the cabinet there. They just kind of get rotated through every couple months for sure.
That DVD box ain't collecting any dust with Loki.
Nope. I got two too. I got the DVD special collector's edition, which is the unrated extended edition, and then the Blu-ray. I don't know why they didn't do that with the Blu-ray. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But the only way you can watch the extended version is on DVD.
Yeah. I have this in sort of the rewatchability bend, but probably not on that kind of scale. I definitely know I watch it every year. I've watched it. Well, this year I've watched it 4 times because I knew we were going to just because, and I went through some Western bends anyway. So yeah, it's definitely in that kind of category for me. But yeah, I think that just from top to bottom, it's firing on all cylinders. It's just great. And then to know the layers of even if it's not historically accurate or perfect, they're trying to hit the beats. They're trying their best. And I think they really do a great job more than they fail. And that deserves a lot of credit. That really does. Sometimes I think we're really critical, especially with, who writes history, right? It's how that argument kind of goes too. But the fact that this had Wyatt Earp 3, Wyatt Earp the third on there to do this. So yeah, it's great.
That scene in the beginning of the movie with Billy Bob Thornton, where he gets thrown out of the bar, where Wyatt's "Come on, youngster, out you go." Almost all of that was ad-libbed.
Oh,
almost that entire scene was ad-libbed between Wyatt and Billy Bob Thornton. And he said, I want it to feel natural, because Kurt told him, I want it to feel natural. I want it to feel like, it's unexpected. You're a bully. I'm coming in to call your bluff. This is how we're going to do it. I'm just hit me back with what you got as I'm talking to you. That's exactly what they did. That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant to have faith in your fellow star to say, hey, listen, this is the way we're going to do it. You just fire back at me and we'll make it work. And they did it. Absolutely. One of the greatest parts in the movie.
We didn't even talk about Billy Bob. Yeah, because and it's such a great, I remember that, go ahead and skin that smoke wagon, see what happens line. And then it follows up with Doc in the next scene, like, Johnny, I forgot you were still there. You can go now. It's like, so
leave the shotgun.
So good. Skin that smoke wagon. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
See what
that was almost like our way we should be talking to these studios and stuff these days. Yeah, go ahead. Skin that smoke wagon. Daryl, my brother. Howdy, fellas. Doing a drive-by, like and comment. Back to work later. Cool. Yeah, man.
Take care, brother. Don't work too hard.
Yeah, man. Got to balance. Got to do it, man. Get back on the back tube, man. Give us some stuff to enjoy. So, yeah, skin that smoke wagon. See what happens. So, yeah, good, awesome. Well, Loki, last thoughts. Throw us out here, man. Like, let us hear what else is in your brain on this one.
There's a reason why I sit down and watch this movie a couple of times a year, and it's the dialogue's great, the acting is top notch, the heroes are not just black and white hero villain types. There's depth to every character. When you're like, oh my God, there's like, so many speaking lines in this movie. Every character in this movie, whether they got a couple of minutes or more, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, every character has depth. And the ones you get to know, even like Ike, even Billy Bob Thornton's character, when he comes back with that shotgun, Johnny Tyler, madcap, where you going with that shotgun? Doc, I didn't know you was back in town. I mean, you immediately get, oh, well, this guy's trying to act hard, but he's not really there. There's levels. Every character is an onion in this movie. Every single one of them. Josephine Marcus, she's out in the middle of nowhere doing a show when she's rich. She's got money. She doesn't have to be out doing any of this. Same with her friend, that was played by Billy Zane, that he didn't have to be out there. This is what they did. They just went from town to town. They had a show. Think of it like, what we do on YouTube, except they traveled around and did it everywhere. They did that because they wanted to, not because they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
There's layers and layers of every single character in this movie, from the smallest to the largest. All that does is bring out the flavor of every single character while you're watching this. It's great. It's an absolutely great movie. If you haven't seen it, you've got to watch it. It's one of those movies you got to see.
And I think Ironcaster will appreciate this too, is because as you go back and you rewatch this movie, you start taking more of it in. You start doing a little bit of historical research and some fact checking. You get a little deeper, and it starts to really just kind of be one of those fun movies that you really can kind of embrace in a lot of ways. I really do enjoy it, and that is definitely one of the pluses this movie has over my other two favorites for sure. So, Ironcaster, other thoughts?
No, I'm kind of at a loss, honestly. I'm glad that I finally sat down and watched this. I don't know why I waited so long for it, just because like I've had the DVD sitting here for about a year or so now. I guess I was waiting for a good reason to watch it, and now I kind of want to go do a little more Western digging.
Oh yeah, we got to get you. Got to check some boxes. We got to get that top 10 list. Start rounding it out. Yeah, so yeah, I got to get more of those reviews up on the Pops channel. I did a bunch of Western stuff right before I ramped Pops up again for website work. I watched like 20 Westerns in a month. It was crazy. So yeah, good stuff. It's just a fun movie too. Like, it's just so rewatchable, like we were talking about before, but I just have a good time with it. And I think it's because of those lines, these lines we keep quoting, so many of them just feel very natural, just very normal. And I think that's what makes them so quotable too. They're fun, they're funny. you know, and I think that, you know, the Huckleberry line, obviously, because I think he has that as part of his memoir is, you know, I'll be your Huckleberry. But just the other lines too, like, you know, Johnny, I forgot you were there. You can go now. Just little subtleties that just make that just, you know, it just brings a smile to your face. Can we just have fun? I love a freaking Pete. Tombstone makes me happy on the inside. Makes me enjoy life. So awesome. Well, brother, hopefully we did it service for you, made you happy.
Oh yeah, this is it's what I've almost kind of I've always kind of kept quiet when it starts getting quoted because I'm like, I don't want to admit that I haven't seen this.
Oh, see, we're gonna have to get to some others that I know that you haven't seen. But all right.
We'll sit down. We'll have to do we'll have to like share sometime like movies that like we have to admit we've never seen.
Oh, I have a list. I've been working on a list. As they come up, I have categories of lists of things. Because again, like you know, like a movie idea or like it's a thing, and I try to click. I try to click things off my box. Like I just haven't gotten because sometimes there's an aversion. Like I'm not going to watch it, but pretty much it's more like just haven't gotten to it or something like that. But it's pretty rare. But I do have a little list of things I've never ever seen. So, how are you, Loki? Do we do good service? Did we do it justice, my friend?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
I understand everybody's going to have their own, they're going to have their own loves. They're going to have their own likes. They're going to have their own favorites. They're going to have their own best. This is mine. I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't think there's anything that could come out of the movie industry today that could ever top this. So,
right. Yeah.
I would say this was probably the highlight of my week to watch because the other options were like Ahsoka.
That's not an option. That's the I watch it so you don't have to. That's the yeah.
Oh, I just don't watch it because
Loki just doesn't even acknowledge it exists, which is also a very, very healthy take on life. So I get it. So but yeah, tons of good stuff out there. Tons of good stuff out there. So well, folks, thank you so much for hanging with us and talking about that. So let's get to IRONCASTER. What's the other fun stuff going on for you, my friend? Because it has been like One Piece mania for everyone. So thanks for convincing me to watch that. I will do another video on that as well. But yeah, One Piece mania has been crazy. But what's going on for you, my friend?
Let's see. I actually just finished watching that yesterday, so I've been had a chance to finally kind of stew on that a little bit. Cool. All in all, that was really solid watch, and I'm kind of surprised like how many people I've managed to then convince of that. But I'll be on here in a little bit with T-shirt Historian we're doing a little bit of kind of a midweek in geek.
Okay. Yeah. It's been good. Every Tuesday.
Yeah, I think we're looking to do that every Tuesday over on his channel. So hear about in an hour or so.
Yeah. Post talk hard. Make sure you have that on your radar screen. Head over there and hang out with them. It's always fun time. So good. All right, Loki, what's going on with you, my friend?
Oh, we got the morning show in the morning, and we should have comic book roundtable after that. I've been trying to juggle a lot lately, so I'm not, nothing definite except for the morning show and guest spots like this. So
gotcha. Yeah, we're getting a month out. Yeah, Valhalla will grow officially by 1, and we'll go from there. So can't wait to definitely catch up to you. It's gonna be fun. Well, I don't know. Should we? You've shown your face. Could we go live from Florida and like prove to everybody that we're breaking bread?
Yeah, I have absolutely no problem with that.
Maybe we could do that on the phone. Maybe Mrs. Pops will be on camera. What do you think? What are the odds of that, folks? So it would be Loki and I on camera, but then Mrs. Pops make a cameo. Because Ariz will do anything. She's crazy, but
that is absolutely fine. However, I am not going near Twitter or YouTube.
No. Like, just us hanging out, having fun. We're gonna get a chance to have
that'll be fun.
We're not doing a show. No. I don't want to do a show like that. It's your time. I just thought it'd be funny to just
we can totally do that.
Something to have a gas doing something. So, but yeah, hail to PKL. By the way, I put that comment up there. But yeah, hey, thank you, Lady Miss, for hanging out with us so much. We do have some other fun stuff coming up because obviously Robot Jocks is next, so that'll be kind of fun. A film I have not seen, and I have it, and I have purposely waited because I want to make sure that I give it some like full attention, so to speak. It actually popped up on my playlist, which again it proves they listen to us, right? I believe it was on Pluto. I'm trying to pull that up real quick. But Tombstone is also on Pluto. So if you don't even have a copy of Tombstone, you can head on over there right now and check it out for yourself, because I'm pretty sure you just go over there, you hit the on demand or you hit search, and you should be able to find what you need in there. So yeah, pretty cool. I'm very excited about that.
I got really lucky. It was a couple of years ago. I can't remember whether I was in Best Buy or Target or Walmart. I don't remember what it was, but I walked by and I stopped and I took 2 steps back and I reached down and picked up Robot Jocks on Blu-ray. And I even said, I was like, Robot Jocks. And I had to take it home immediately. I think I only paid like $8.99 for it or something, but the fact that I found it on Blu-ray and it was the widescreen version of the film, I lost my shit. So,
Awesome.
And just to give us at least the poster.
Look at Chris Persha, though, representing, giving us those links that we need for that show later on. Make sure you're checking that out. All right, there we go. Robot Jocks. Yes.
2 men, 2 machines, 2 wild.
Robot Jocks.
Yeah, screw you, Pacific Rim. Robot Jocks was there first. So,
right.
Sock 'em robots, baby.
And all stop motion. It's all stop motion. It's glorious.
We fight robots in space.
Chris wrote later tonight, but I think he means tomorrow. Comic Book Roundtable is Wednesdays. So that's Comic Book Wednesdays. So yeah, Chris, that would be tomorrow night. So
sometimes me and Daryl go live with a Dark Tower stream, but we're not doing that tonight. And I think this is it. I'm gonna go out and buy some sunglasses now.
Yeah, no, it's good. So yeah, busy week ahead. And definitely, I know the aforementioned Ahsoka will be on my review list. Give you my real life thoughts and watch it so you don't have to kind of stuff. So good, getting through Winning Time. I'll have another follow up thoughts on One Piece. Tomorrow's Comic Book Wednesday, Wakazashi's Tea House, and we have some really really fun stories to talk about. And this week on What's Your Story? I believe it's the Mad Barber. I think the Mad Barber is on with me. I am more hashtag RIP comedy type talk. So for sure. So yeah, awesome. But it's going to be fun. Robot Jocks. And then we're doing Hell Comes Frogtown. So yeah, we got that coming up before we head into October and try to finalize what we're going to do in October, because there's always some fun stuff to do. But yeah,
I probably will be gone the 10th and the 17th. I know I'll be going on the 17th. I think I'm going on the 10th too, because we got to pack up and get everything.
Let's see
ready.
what I've got on the schedule. So yeah, I don't have you on the 10th or the 17th. I have you back on the 24th. October 24th will be Christine, and October 31st, Halloween itself, will be Halloween 1978. So yeah.
So what you're saying is for those 2 weeks, I'm picking movies?
No, I actually had 2 other suggestions and have not gotten confirmation on either one of those. So I do not want to speak out of turn until I know for sure, because we had guest ideas for both. So we will see. So after we do this, I will try to prioritize that.
Say I've got at least one suggestion I want to see about doing for the sake of Halloween, if we can fit it in. If not, we can save it for next year.
All right, well, we will hear out your suggestion, but I'm pretty sure we're booked all the way through. Go ahead, let me hear your suggestion, because I already have. I think the suggestion that I have, I think one of the 2 is a movie you had suggested. So let's see what you say.
Hopefully, it's not Ernest Scared Stupid. Please, God, no.
No, that's not on the radar screen.
Okay.
Actually, I was gonna say I've been suggesting I believe 1998's Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
That is the one. That is yes. And I have a note here to see if Abomination AJ wanted to join for the animated, because he's an animation guru. See if he wanted to join us for something like that. So it's on the radar screen. And I guess it's full disclosure. Arwen Avalon had mentioned Lady in White, a film I've not seen. It's one that she was really high on. So, but I've not heard from her. I haven't been able to get confirmation on that. So we'll see. So yeah, we have a pretty well packed schedule through most of the rest of the year, minus some holidays, because I will be out of town, so we won't really have those weeks of holidays, have stuff going on those weeks. Maybe we'll do some replay stuff or something like that. This will be a fun one to revisit, because Tombstone is timeless, classic, what better way to bring in the holidays? Sit around and talk about Tombstone. It's either that or Santa's sleigh. Just saying. Yeah.
So I mean, we could always watch Thanksgiving.
We could, or we could not. So with that, folks, we will wrap up. It's another great week of Talk Hard. I cannot recommend Tombstone enough, and Thanksgiving at all. So there you go. With that, I think we did it. Well, we had it in the intro. I played it for Ironcaster. It seems only fitting to go out with some more Tombstone talk. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Be blessed. Talk hard. Till next time.
Too tight, Marshal?
Nope.
Any last words?
Nope.
What do you want on your tombstone?
Pepperoni and cheese.
Time for Tombstone Pizza, made with the good stuff. Real